I call the Honourable Member Holly Walker.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I am a new member of this House. I'm new enough to remember why I got into politics and who I'm here to represent. Mr. Speaker, when I decided to stand for Parliament, I said I wanted to defend our welfare and education systems that served me so well as a child, to ensure that they continue to provide every child in New Zealand with the essentials at the start of their lives, so that they can grow up and have the same opportunities that I did. So it is with some sadness, Mr. Speaker, that I find that I have to stand and defend the welfare system from attack so soon after entering this House. But I'm also very proud to do so. I'm proud to defend our welfare system from this cynical attack. And I'm proud to represent the parents, the young people and the children who will suffer if we allow this bill to pass. Despite the title, Mr. Speaker, this bill is not about work focus. It doesn't create any new jobs or any new training opportunities. It's not about youth support. It doesn't help young people to take responsibility for their lives and their finances or support them into employment. It is about dismantling the social safety net and casting vulnerable New Zealanders loose for the sake of a few votes, and it is reprehensible. Mr. Speaker, New Zealand needs jobs and training for everyone, not beneficiary bashing. Making life harder for people on benefits won't magically create jobs for them to move into. These welfare reforms in this bill will increase inequality and they'll make life harder for everybody. They'll compound the challenges faced by unemployed and disengaged young people, and they will undermine the ability of parents to take good care of their children. Mr. Speaker, the Green Party cannot support this bill. The government seems to believe that if you make life tough enough for beneficiaries, if you introduce enough work tests, if you threaten them with enough sanctions, jobs will magically appear for them to move into. They know it doesn't work like that. Their own officials have told them so, but it's the only response from a government that seems to have zero commitment to real job creation. It seems to be the only response they can come up with. It is actually possible to help people move off benefits and into work. Most people on benefits would cry out for the opportunity to do so because, as many members of this House will know, trying to make ends meet on a benefit is almost impossible. But the best way to help people off benefits and into work is to invest in job creation. We know this in the Green Party. That's why we proposed a job package before the election that would have created 100,000 sustainable new jobs for New Zealanders, including many that would be appropriate for currently unemployed and young people. But this package doesn't create any jobs. What it will create is misery and hardship for those who are already doing it tough. And I say to this government, if you're serious about helping people move off welfare and into work, then invest in skills and training and job creation. The Green Party will support you. But do not talk about helping young people move off welfare and into work when what you really mean is forcing people off welfare and into oblivion. It might make the benefit stats look better, Mr. Speaker, but it will create poverty, inequality and desperation, and it will cost us all in the long run. Mr. Speaker, I want to focus on the impact that this bill will have on sole parents and their children. This government seems to have forgotten something that every single parent in New Zealand knows. In fact, not every single parent, every parent in New Zealand knows. Parenting is work. It is one of the most important jobs that there is, and if we can support parents to give their children the best start in life, we can save the country billions of dollars in future welfare, health, education and justice spending. The changes proposed in this bill will undermine the ability of parents to take good care of their children by taking parents away from children at key stages of their development. And perhaps even worse than that, they will entrench poverty for many children by sanctioning their parents. Mr. Speaker, children have the same needs for food, clothing, a warm, dry house and a secure attachment to a loving caregiver, no matter what the income status of their parents, whether their parents are in work or not. And I challenge the Minister to explain how it is fair to punish innocent children by cutting their parents' benefits because they can't meet work testing requirements. It's an inhumane and uncaring approach which undermines all this minister's high rhetoric about improving the situation for vulnerable children. These changes will create vulnerable children, Mr. Speaker, and create the conditions of poverty, financial stress and insecurity in which child abuse and neglect are rife. So I say shame on Paula Bennett for presiding over the Green Paper for vulnerable children on the one hand and introducing this bill that will create more vulnerable children on the other. Mr. Speaker, sole parents want to work, and there are ways to support them to do that when they are ready. This starts with respecting those parents and respecting the fact that they almost always know what is in the best interests of their family. They are better placed than any of us in here to make a decision about when they are ready to re-enter the workforce. So it's about being flexible, creative and supportive and helping parents to find appropriate part-time work that suits their needs and the needs of their children. And it's about encouraging employers to make this kind of work available. It's also about recognising that it's not necessarily better for parents or their children for them to move off welfare and into a minimum wage job. Supporting sole parents into higher education and training is one of the most effective ways to reduce the amount of time that they spend on a benefit and to increase the amount that they earn when they move off it. But in the face of this evidence, the government has cut access to the training incentive allowance for degree-level courses. The Green Party would help parents to move off benefits and into work, but we'd do that by reinstating the training incentive allowance for degree-level courses and extending it to sickness and invalids beneficiaries. Mr. Speaker, we need a welfare system that recognises that caregiving and parenting are important and that supports and empowers parents to move into work when their children are ready. Many children born into two-parent families get all the benefits associated with having a secure attachment to a full-time caregiver in the early years of their life, including being breastfed past the age of 1. We know how important these things are to child development. It's well documented. So why would we deny that start in life to a child born into a sole-parent family? The message that this sends is that the child of a sole-parent family is not as important as the child born into a two-parent family. That's a message that starts the moment the child is born, and if this bill passes, it will be compounded at every turn until that child themselves is an unemployed and disengaged young person facing a future of insecurity. This government talks about breaking the cycle of benefit dependence. And if that is what they really want to do, then they should not enact this flawed and uncaring bill. Mr. Speaker, this bill is also about young people. We have a massive youth unemployment problem in New Zealand, but this bill does nothing to support young people into education or employment. Young people need jobs, and this bill does not provide them. They need skills and training opportunities, and this bill doesn't offer that either. What it does is punish them, especially young parents, for the tough situations that they find themselves in. Mr. Speaker, the National Party purports to stand for personal responsibility, but in the provisions of this bill that relate to young people, it does the complete opposite. How does income management by work and income or private sector providers teach young beneficiaries personal responsibility in relation to their income? It does the exact opposite. It makes them more rather than less dependent in the way that they manage their lives. And it will foster resentment and disengagement amongst those young people, and it won't help them to become independent and resilient. Mr. Speaker, the involvement of the private sector in the provision of services to young beneficiaries is also deeply disturbing. This approach has been tried in the United Kingdom and it's failed spectacularly. We should learn from these mistakes, not replicate them. In the UK, we've seen similar private sector involvement in welfare as that proposed by this bill lead to the displacement of paid workers, to existing staff losing the opportunity for overtime. We've seen the exploitative use of beneficiaries as free labour, and we've seen government funding being claimed fraudulently by private providers. Mr. Speaker, if this government is serious about helping people off welfare and into work, it is clear what they need to do, and it is not what's in this bill. They should go back to the drawing board, read the submissions to the Welfare Working Group that they ignored, read the report of the Alternative Welfare Working Group and come up with a set of reforms that puts children's well-being at the heart of the welfare system. Because putting children first, guaranteeing that their needs are met no matter what their family income status, supporting their parents to develop secure attachment with their children in the early years, supporting their parents into education and training, developing young people's potential and supporting their independence, and creating sustainable, flexible jobs that pay a living wage. That is how you break the cycle of benefit dependence.
I call the honourable member Tim McIndoe.
Mr. Speaker, this government is definitely